Hi everyone, welcome back to Christine on Houston. I am your host Christine, and if you're new here, thank you for listening, and if you're a returning listener, thank you so much for listening. So, without further ado, let's get into episode number 10, performing a life audit. I talk about that a few times throughout my platform on YouTube, throughout my podcast, the importance of performing a life audit. I do it myself as many times as I feel that I need to. And as you all know, none of us are perfect. So you'll always have a point in your life when you need to take a step back and self-reflect and perform a life audit. Now, the importance of performing a life audit is just what I said, You stand back, you take a step back, and you self-reflect on who you are currently, where you'd like to be, and what's going on currently, what you can learn from in the past. And you pretty much just make a category of every area of your life. Your career, your education, your relationships, your health, your mental health, and any other area that you feel is important to examine and see where you can make adjustments and set new goals or keep the same ones that you haven't met previously. And the importance of meeting your goals, it's if you set a goal and you don't put a plan in place or a system, then it's just a wish. It's not really a dream. It's just something that you wish you could do. So you have to put some action behind those goals, and you have to put a system in place. So instead of just saying, I want to lose weight as a goal, well, you can say that. But let's just say, as an example, someone says like, oh, I want to lose weight, and they just leave it at that. That's not really effective. And most of the time you're not going to meet that goal. Versus if you say, I want to lose weight, and then the system that you put in place is that I will exercise 3 times a week for 30 minutes. That's a system that you're putting in place. You're putting action behind that goal, and you need to treat all of your goals that way. You can make the vision board and put everything up, but if you look at it every day and again you don't have any specific actions that you are going to take to make that goal happen, then it's just going to be something on your vision board and a wish. So something to keep in mind moving forward. And as you're self-reflecting, you need to reflect on also where you are currently in that area of your life, but be honest. Sometimes we can live in a fantasy world and maybe overinflate ourselves, and we lie to ourselves. And you don't want to lie to yourself. Be honest about where you are, because the more that you can be honest with yourself, then you can be realistic. You can actually get to where you'd like to be if you just be honest, I think that weight would be a good one. I know that that's very sensitive in today's society. It's all about body positivity, and that's fine and all, but some people are just simply overweight and they're too big and it's not healthy and they need to lose weight, and they'll argue you down that they're perfectly healthy at 480 pounds, but they're 5 feet, and it's like, that's not true. You're not healthy. You're hurting yourself. And Some people will probably not like what I have to say about that very much. And that's not shaming someone. That's not saying that they're disgusting, they're ugly, and all of those other derogatory things that people say towards people who are overweight. But at the end of the day, it's just not healthy. It's not. So you have to love yourself, of course, at any stage of your life, no matter where you are and how you look. But you do have to be honest when there is something that can be improved upon and adjusted. So be honest at our first step of self-reflection. Now, the second thing you want to do, again, you have to be honest, is identifying your strengths and your weaknesses. Now, identifying your weakness is not worshiping a problem or looking down on yourself or being negative, but it's just simply being self-aware. And you have to be self-aware if you plan on succeeding at anything in life. But if you keep living in fantasy land and lying to yourself, that's going to hold you back. Do you struggle with being on time? I used to struggle with that really bad. It's improved. It's not great. It's not where it needs to be. But I tend to lose track of time. And I'll think that I have more time than I actually do. And I have this misconception of thinking that I can do a lot of things in 10 minutes, when in actuality, it might take me maybe 2 hours. And that is living in Fantasyland, being very unrealistic. But the way I've overcome that is time blocking, which I also talk about a lot throughout my platform. So with time blocking, planning out your day hour by hour is helpful. I also like to look at my schedule from a weekly standpoint and have like a massive list of things that I need to get done. And the way I overcame it, I kept time blocking and looking at my schedule from a weekly standpoint. And then as I'm going throughout the process, I was able to identify, okay, this task is not going to take me an hour. It's actually going to take me much longer than that. But I wouldn't have learned that if I didn't take those first steps of even trying. So sometimes you can't identify your weakness if you never try to do anything about it. And you just start and stop at that point of, oh, I know that I have a weakness with being on time. You're aware, but you don't do anything about it. So back to that point of being self-aware or setting a goal, but you have to get specific. You have to put a system in place. You have to put action behind it in order to make that change. And you have to be realistic. Again, it won't be perfect because we're not perfect, but I can honestly say that it has improved. And I get a lot more done in my life than I did before. So, focusing on your strengths, you can lean upon your strengths more heavily. So if you're really good at, let's say, talking to people or persuading them to do things, or not in a negative, manipulative way, but maybe just like really encouraging others and making them feel inspired. And you make them feel inspired to take inspired action. So the way we could spin that is, when you're scheduling out your time, you dedicate time to talk to those individuals and keep it on a positive note, and, just be yourself, be authentic. But yeah, I would say definitely focus on your strengths when you're approaching things, your goals, and different things in life that you want to get done. And choose careers and different tasks based on your strengths. So maybe for me, if time is an issue for you, maybe you don't need to work in an industry like finance, because you do have to do things in a timely manner. I used to work at a bank, and as a teller, not even just as a manager or a banker, but even as a teller, you have to process the ATM machines within a certain amount of time before the bank opens, and you still have to will come in before that point in a timely manner to open up a vault, and then do the ATMs if it's that day. And then you still have to open up your drawer and set that up, because customers, they have a grace period where they can come in 10 minutes before you technically open. So you have to be ready. But if you struggle in that area like I do, you are going to have a really hard time. And I don't work at a bank anymore. It was honestly one of the most stressful times of my life. But that's also a good point of just being aware of your strengths and your weaknesses. You also want to reflect on what's working, what's not working. Back to that point of how I was explaining, when I started time blocking and I stuck with it, I was able to see what actually needed more time for me to complete, which task. And it's the same thing with focusing on or assessing your strengths and your weaknesses. You have to see hey, step back and reflect and see what works for me and what isn't working for me. Maybe the checklist isn't working and you need to switch to time blocking. Maybe time blocking doesn't work for you. Everybody is different, and having a checklist is better, but you won't know if you don't try. So that's another thing to keep in mind on how to navigate through that process of identifying your strengths and your weaknesses. Setting goals for improvement. So one of the things that you could do when you're talking about how you can create those actionable, measurable goals based on what you found out to work for you and not work for you, you could, if you're in therapy, well, firstly, if you're not, I definitely recommend that you find a therapist. And I know that that's a journey within itself. It's not easy. It is a job within itself to find a therapist. Insurances, and then finding the right platform for yourself. And then once you find a platform you like, finding a therapist. It's just like dating, honestly, or making friends. It can be, or even just simply, it's like finding a job. It's just not an easy process, but, it's definitely worth it. But my point is, you can talk to your therapist and they can help you put systems in place and figure out what's working, what's not working, and help you get stronger in whatever that area is that you're trying to work on. Even if you can find someone in your social circle who can be an accountability partner, or you join an association for that particular area that you want to improve upon, and you find a buddy, you just create a buddy system. You find someone who you both can keep each other accountable and help each other to grow. in that area. That definitely helps, having that extra support and also that sounding board when you're just reflecting on things or you need to talk something out and see where, if it sounds like it's a good idea. Because I know I've definitely been there myself where there's something that I'm thinking about constantly, but I haven't said it out loud to anyone. I haven't discussed it ever. And the moment I say it out loud as I'm discussing it with someone, I realize how stupid it sounds or terrible an idea is. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I said that out loud because that sounds insane or it's just not a good idea. So, that's the importance in that too, finding that accountability partner or discussing it with your therapist or just someone that you really trust. And it's important to do that too also because you may journal and write some things down, but it still may sound like a good idea to you in that moment or on paper. But again, when you discuss it with someone who, you can use as a sounding board and maybe they think differently than you or they're like a neutral party, they can help you gain clarity and reach a healthy conclusion and help you make a healthy decision on whatever it is that you need someone to hear you out about. So you also want to check in regularly and making sure that you're meeting those milestones that you put in place for yourself to see if you're on track to meeting that goal. So, losing weight is a pretty easy one to use as an example. But so the system that you put in place, you said, I want to lose weight. Say you were like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. And the system that you put in place is that you were going to work out 3 days a week. You're going to meal prep your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And maybe you do it with a friend, maybe you don't. But you check in by stepping on the scale once a week. You don't become obsessive about it and step on the scale every day. And maybe you don't even step on the scale once a week. Maybe you do it once a month, but you have to decide what you would like to do. If you feel like you'll be too obsessed, then maybe do it less. Another action plan could be to find a dietitian that you can work with. And now, they have a lot of programs out there where you can sign up with your health insurance and meet up with your dietitian once, maybe a couple times a week. It's just like therapy, but with your relationship with food and fitness. And they can even encourage you and hold you accountable and check in with you. That helped me out a lot. Even in the beginning, it helped me become aware of how much I was eating, what I was eating, how often. And it can be astonishing to see. It's just like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that I ate that much fast food or that I ate that much cheese or that I eat out that often or eat a lot of chips, whatever. Whatever your weakness is, the junk food that you like, it's going to help you to have an honest look in the mirror. Like, oh, okay, that's a problem for me. I struggle with that. But it's good. And the more you do it, you get better. But that is a great system to put in place. And a lot of people don't realize that it is included with their insurance or that it is available to them. And I feel like finding a dietitian might be easier than finding a therapist. It's easier to find a platform. I know that FoodSmart is one great platform that I used to use when my insurance changed. So I'm going to see if I can get on there again. I think they do take my new insurance, but that's a great one to check out for those of you who are interested. But that's also just for that example of wanting to lose weight or just eat healthier. That is a great system to put in place, platform to use, and research on different platforms that are out there because I'm not well versed in finding a dietitian or a nutritionist, but I do know that at most hospitals, yeah, even there, you can just find one like a primary doctor to work with, and as well as certain clinics, the weight loss clinics, they have programs. I can't name any right now, but they will even help you out with that as well. And some of them are like all inclusive with working with a trainer, you have a nutritionist and a dietitian. And, you know, again, if that is available for you, that tends to be more like expensive, I believe. It's more like signing up at a workout studio versus going through your insurance with certain platforms and a hospital. But still worth the investment if that is a serious goal of yours. And in conclusion, you guys should definitely start your own life audits. This is currently February of 2025. Oftentimes, people start off during the new year and they're like, I have all of these New Year's resolutions. And by the time they get to January, they sort of forgot all about it or they give up on it. And you know what? It's all isn't lost, but this is a time for you to get back on track and do what you said you were going to do. So get back on track. If you haven't created a vision board, it's never too late or early to create one. So now, just take the time to create that vision board, write down your goals, and figure out what your systems are going to be that you're going to put in place. Time block and see how you are going to put those systems in action. What time are you going to wake up? What time are you going to go to bed? When are you going to work out? What are you going to eat? What's your menu for the week? Even if you don't meal prep, creating that menu, how long is it going to take for you to prepare your food? Are you going to eat out? If you're going to eat out, where are you going to go eat out? I know at one point for myself, I would look at menus ahead of time and plan out meals and see what I can eat, what I can't eat. Excuse me, especially if at one point in time I was vegan, so I really had to thoroughly look through menus and figure out where I could go and couldn't go. And at that time, I was living in Long Beach, so it was really easy, to find a vegan restaurant throughout LA, Orange County, Long Beach, super easy. It didn't take much effort. And by the time I moved back to Chicago, I wouldn't say that I stopped being vegan, but I'm thinking about going back to it. But Chicago's pretty, there are pretty good options. You have a few things around that are available to you. Not quite like the West Coast, but, it's not a vegan food desert, so to speak. But, yeah, so just to reiterate, you're going to write down those goals. So perform that life audit, make all of the categories of your life, finances, career, relationships, health, mental health, spiritual, if that's important to you, and rate it from 1 to 10 of how happy you are, and be honest in those areas of your life. How happy are you? Rate that from 1 to 10. Then you're going to set your goals. You're going to put those systems in place. You're going to time block and see when you're going to do everything. And make a vision board. Now, don't get discouraged if during the process, you don't do every single thing that you said you were going to do. Just keep going. Take everything one day at a time. And, let's say maybe you did 2 things on that list for the day. And then maybe the next day you did nothing. And then the following day you did 3 things. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. It takes a long time. And I would say it's just not easy. But it takes a while for you to really implement that change that you're looking for. And before you start this process, keep in mind that it's a journey. This is not going to be something that happens overnight, but stick to it. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged when you don't do everything that you said you were going to do. Sit down every single week, even if you did nothing the previous week that you said you were going to do, and write it down again and keep doing it until you look up and you see, you know what? I actually started doing everything that I said I was going to do. That's what happened for me. I kept going at it. And then you look up and little by little you start doing way more than what you were doing previously and getting things done. And once that happens, your life starts to change for the better. And a lot of times better than you've ever expected. And it just gets easier with time because you never gave up and you stayed consistent. Consistency is key with anything that you're working towards and trying to succeed in. Being consistent. And being consistent doesn't look like what people think it looks like. It's much like how I just explained how you might do some things one day and nothing the next and so on. And it might be like that for a while, but because you stayed consistent for months, you started to see those changes, and everyone around you will start to see those changes as well. Not that that's what you're looking for because you're doing it for yourself, but you'll feel so accomplished, and there is no better feeling than doing what you said you were going to do and getting better and working towards the life that you actually want and deserve for yourself. Always know that you are worthy and you are capable of doing hard things. People can do hard things. We are all resilient. You just have to push yourself and you have to believe in yourself. Always believe in yourself and never give up on your dreams. So, with all of that being said, that is our episode of Performing a Life Audit. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, I am Christine Eastwood, your host of Christine on East End. I haven't seen any reviews or comments on my show, but you guys, I really would love to hear your feedback. I'm still in the process of scaling my show and getting it to grow and improving it to where I would like to see my show grow into and change into. So I have a lot of ideas for the next season to come. But I would love to hear how you guys have it turned out for you performing a life audit. So thank you guys again so much for listening, and I will talk to you guys on the next episode.